thanks a million for doing this. This is a huge honor. I'm delighted with this. It's great. Um, First of all, congratulations on the weekend, because I mean, it's easy to forget. I think the year it was only listening to people talking about it yesterday, like the athletes themselves over the course of the weekend, said the thing that kind of kept consistently coming back to was how fucked up the whole year was, as in just training wise, that there was so many peaks and re-peaks and then waiting again and unknowns and stuff. So I think even like for you, as I suppose you get the duality of joy of you're the husband and like primary supporter, and then you've got the kind of vindication as a coach as well, that like, yeah, we're doing the right stuff, this is working out. Like, so it must have just been an incredible weekend for you.
Yeah, it certainly was an incredible weekend. You know, like obviously Tia and Matt executed the weekend phenomenally. I think there's no concern of me saying they were head and shoulder above the rest of the field.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like the season was a long time, and it's obviously over 12 months. The Open was last year, October, and the guys are now competing now. I'm just thrilled that they got to showcase their fitness. Like I think that was the big thing. It's like when they're moving the goalposts throughout the season, there was a lot of doubt with many of the athletes in the conversations thinking, will this even go ahead? Are they just leading us on? I wish they just told us, or I wish they had just cancelled it so we can look forward to 2021. So, you know, exactly like you said, like we're trying to peak for a particular event, and I'm trying to dangle this carrot saying, hey, we're nearly there. We're going to be in the trenches for the next 2 weeks. You got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, so to speak. And then for it to finally happen was a relief. Like when we checked in and did the briefs and gone through a lot of the conversations, what they normally do with the opening day of the CrossFit Games, that was more of a satisfaction feeling, you know, like, yes, we get to show our fitness.
Yeah. And is there, like, I suppose, like you say, the two of them are so far ahead of, like, I mean, Matt could have essentially not competed. He could have just done one event and then not competed for the rest of Sunday. And Tia was in a similar enough position as well. Like, is it just their own innate sense of wanting to be the best that keeps them performing at that 100% level and like doesn't let it dip?
Yeah. So like with all these competitors, like I have a lot of credit for all the games athletes. I know the hours they put into their craft, and what separates them from a lot of the other athletes in the Open is their drive and competitiveness. Every competition they enter, they have a desire to win, the desire to create a strong legacy. So it doesn't matter if it's the Open, it doesn't matter if it's a backyard competition, it doesn't matter if it's a Friday Night Lights competition that you're in. These guys want to turn up and they want to win and they want to put their best foot forward. So it doesn't really change in the scenario or circumstances. I guess their level of fitness is heightened, obviously, around the CrossFit Games. That's what we train for. So, yeah, these guys, they just want to showcase the best of their ability.
Yeah. Are you in a cafe there?
I'm in the lobby right now while Tia's packing up our room. We got to check out in about, what do we got? In about 90 minutes. So I promised you that I'd do it, so I just wanted to deliver. I kept leading you on. It was almost like the CrossFit season. I said, we'll do this. And then I keep changing on you. So I appreciate you being patient.
Man. No, geez, I'm nothing if not patient. I say that to any of the guests that have been hard, like that have found it hard to find the time. I say I'm incredibly flexible when it comes to recording, just not when it comes to like bending over or, you know, stretching my actual body. I'm not flexible at all. Would you, I see a lot on Instagram of you and Tia going for coffees and like, well, donuts and shit like that, but I'll focus on the coffee just because I'll get diabetes just by talking about the donuts. Would you consider yourself a coffee snob?
Look, being Australian, I think that comes with the game. I think just over our expectations for coffee. I will say though, we've been in this quarantine, this bubble for the CrossFit Games, and we've just had the standard coffee in the pot for the last 2 weeks. So my taste buds have certainly diminished, or my expectations have. So. Yeah, but it's been good.
Yeah, you like you come from Australia, like you say, and then you've been all over the world. Like, so you're in South America and Hawaii and just everywhere, really. Like through the sport, I suppose. I'm assuming you've had some incredible coffees in some incredible places with some incredible people along the way. Then,
100%. Yeah, we certainly love our coffee. It's something, a ritual which we like look forward to.
mm,
Um, you're right. I think we've had some of our best coffee in South Africa. I will say that in the US, the coffee game is growing and it's
mm,
very strong. Like I know when we go to a new city, in fact, sometimes when we go, well, I'm booking the hotel myself. I will look for the coffee shops around and then book the hotel in the middle of it so I get to venture out.
yeah.
I feel like that's me looking and seeing what the locals are doing and then experiencing some of the local coffee as well.
Yeah, I always do that as well. I always search the location on Instagram and then scroll through until I see, because if you search coffee, you get some weird, like,
Yeah,
it's like, oh, that looks really good. But then you look in the background, you're like, no, that croissant doesn't look like it's made by some guy in a
yeah.
vest. It's not good enough. Like,
Or you see the latte art and it just looks like it's just froth, it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
being
yeah,
shaken in a cup and then handed to you. So
yeah. You're
I do
preaching to the
look at the
choir, man.
pictures and reviews. Yeah,
With podcasts, then you don't seem to do a lot. Like you appear in a lot of like the documentaries, like whether it's the Noble stuff or the Buttery Bros stuff. And I know you've recorded with Team Richie as well, but like you don't seem to dip your toe too much in podcasts. Why is that?
very observant. That is so accurate. I remember when you messaged me, I was like, "This isn't my thing. I don't do this." But then I don't know. You had me in a vulnerable moment. I was like, you know what? I will do it. I think for me, it's like I'm learning a lot on my journey,
Mm,
and I don't want to. I just don't want to misinform people. I don't know it all, and I don't want them to think that I know it all. I'll be the first to say that I'm learning as we go. I feel the trajectory that Tia and Matt or Tia has increased her abilities. I feel like I have as well. I think it's certainly been a long learning curve for me. So what I don't want to do is just tell people one thing today, and then tomorrow I've found a better, unique, or a better way of doing things, and then I'm starting to say that in the next podcast.
mm,
Yeah, and plus I like some form of secrecy as well. I think that what we try to do is we've worked so hard to create something within our group, and that they trust me with that information, and I don't want to
let
step
something
those
slip out.
boundaries. Yeah, exactly. I'm good for it.
Yeah. You're always really open and like, you mentioned a vulnerable moment there. You've been prone to a lot of vulnerable moments in
Oh
front of the camera. Um, is that like, do you enjoy sharing that part of yourself, or is it kind of like after it's recorded, you like, oh fuck, they're gonna put that in the documentary now?
man, no, that's another good question. At the start, I didn't know what I wanted to share or who I wanted to be on the camera. When I say who I wanted to be, it's just like you want to get it right. Like you just want to because you know the impact it does on the other end.
Yeah,
Like when the kids are watching it or another coach is watching it, they're critical. They're critical. They're open minded, listening and to everything you do, watching your movements, your mannerism, and seeing what the athletes are doing as well. Like so that expectation or pressure of trying to be something on camera as well is something you're thinking about. So when it comes to the emotional side, it's like at the start, I wanted to fight. It's like I didn't want to showcase that. I don't know who I was trying to be, type of thing to some degree. But at the end of it, I was like, screw it. This is who I am. I'm not gonna try create an image that I'm not, and just people don't like it. That's
yeah,
fine with them. My bubble like it. Well, I hope they like it, and I'm happy with that.
yeah. Do you get much engagement on social media then? Much like many messages, many like comments, stuff like that?
In regards to what?
Just in general,
Just in
like I'm just,
general?
yeah, I'm curious about,
Yeah,
like, say you mentioned there about like if people don't like it, like fuck them basically. But I mean, I assume
yeah.
the world that we live in now, it's like it's so easy and so quick to send a message, and that kind of almost encourages people that have something negative say to just blurt it out without even, there's no safeguard anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, you get all those messages you get. I'm fortunate. I get like I'd say 99% of them are very positive and
Yeah,
constructive. Um, I, I mean, like, yeah, I guess we shut it out. I think that comes with the territory. If they say if you're really successful, expect. I mean, you're not successful until you start getting hate mail,
Yeah.
or criticism. So
Yeah.
I guess it comes with the territory. I think it's some of it's constructive. Like I look at it and try to be understanding of their point of view and see where they're coming from, and some of it you just got to ignore.
Yeah.
I feel for the bigger guys, like like the Tiers and Mats, or your celebrities beyond them, your world class athletes, on the TV every second night, or even your celebrities, the politicians. Man, I'm just the coach, just trying to do good things for my people, and couldn't imagine what they go through.
Yeah, it's like I always kind of think like I wonder those people that send those messages have only had the opportunity to do that for the last like maybe 10 years, like maybe like
Yeah,
what the fuck did they do before, like those people with
yeah,
that personality trait, like not those people
yeah.
specifically, but say like the earlier generation of them, like did they just go out in the street and shout, or like what do they do to get that
Oh,
out, like it must have
I
just been
know,
so toxic, like
I know. Sometimes it's like the comments that they give. It's like, what do you want me to do with this? I'm not going to change my ways just because you're not happy with
yeah,
what I have posted. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
So like literally yesterday we watched you hug Tia as she came across the finish line of the aromas. But like going way back then, is one of you credited with dragging the other to CrossFit for the first time?
Yeah. So I found CrossFit, and sorry if I heard you right. So how who who
Who
pushed who to do
who
CrossFit?
drug who dragged who to the first
Yeah.
class?
Yeah, so I found CrossFit through rugby, and I'm sure you're familiar with rugby. So, in the off-season program, we implemented rugby. We implemented CrossFit
Hmm.
into our off-season programming, especially when it was raining on the paddock, so we couldn't get on the fields. So we would just go into the gym, and they said, "Hey, today's session's CrossFit." Blah blah blah. So I went, "Okay, I'll try this CrossFit thing," and did it, and I thought it was great. And I thought, you know what, Tia would like this. So then I went home, told Tia about it. Hey, Tia, I just did this CrossFit thing. There's a gym down the road. I think you would like it. I think it'd be great, because she was training for track and field at the time,
Yeah.
400-meter hurdles. So I said it'd be great because it's raining, and the forecast for the next week's going to be raining. Just go into the gym and try this CrossFit thing. I did some plyometrics. I did some bounding over boxes. So this could be cool. Anyway, she went in there and absolutely hated it. She didn't want a bar of it. She came home and said, that was silly. I don't want to do that. And then, sure enough, the coach saw some form of potential in her early on this, and then tried to uh, convince her to come back. And then she was like, nah, look, I've got track and field coming up. This is my thing. This is my thing. Anyway, they said, look, I'll give you a 3-month membership if you can just come in and just train. And she's like, a 3 month of membership? That's $150. Okay, I'll come and train. So she did that. And I think she got the bug after about the month. Yeah, at the
Yeah,
month
yeah.
mark.
At what point then did you become like her coach? Like when, like, was there a specific moment in time? Was there a conversation, or was it just kind of a natural drift into that relationship?
Yeah. So throughout Tia's career, if I could say that, when she was doing track and field and dabbling in other sports, throughout the way, I've always been very fond or passionate in being a resource or helping her in anything she did. Because I genuinely like the athletic side of all sports. I think it's
Mm.
phenomenal to watch, and I like the process. Process for me is what I love. I'll talk more about that. But so I've always been a part of Tia's track, and it all started with me with a stopwatch. Like that
Yeah.
was how we could hang out with her parents. Like to allow her, to Tia and I to have a hangout time. I would go to the track and I would just press stop and start on her intervals for her run. So to fast forward that, when we found CrossFit, it just organically started evolving. Like she liked doing the local competitions, and then the coach at the time started helping her do that stuff. But then when the competition started getting larger, she goes, Shane, I need to prioritize, or I need to learn how to do this rope club. We don't have a rope at a gym, but I need to know how to do it because they're more than likely peer. So did the old YouTube and Google and searched rope climb. And then, sure enough, we found some CrossFit content, and I just started learning and understanding a lot of that. Started watching a lot of the highlight reels from the past games competitors, and just started applying some of my learnings from when I was starting to be like a personal trainer in the athletic world.
Yeah.
And then I guess the role just started evolving from there. And then one day Tia said, look, and this was after the 2014 CrossFit Games with Camille LeBlanc won and Rich Froning won, was a group of us. At the end of the weekend, we all turned to each other, all the guys I was with, and we just said, holy crap, there is no way. These guys are superhuman. Then I looked over to Tia and I was looking for some form of like understanding or on the same wavelength of what I just said to them. And she goes, Shane, I want to be here next year. And I said, what now? Okay. Well, let's talk about it on Monday or whatever it was. And sure enough, she was serious and she goes, I want to do it. And I said, well, if you want to do it, we got to put in hours and hours because these guys have been doing it for years. And so anyway, she put the work in and then she was there the next year.
Yeah. And then like, say, like I get the impression obviously you've done you did your PT early doors, we'll say, but then you've, I suppose, largely like self-educated and like, you know, you've watched a lot and learned a lot through, I suppose, osmosis and through like doing and, you know, learning on the job. Are you ever like intimidated or maybe not now, but like in that say 2015, 2016, were you ever intimidated when you met people like say Chris Hinshaw or Ben Bergeron or, you know, like, and introduce yourself as a coach? Like, was it ever difficult to let those words out like that you were a coach?
Yeah, no, 100%. That's a great point. I think that was a concern of mine for a long time as well. I think that's the same as any athlete when they go to the games. I had a quick brief chat with Jeff Adler, and I think he was here at the weekend, and I said, well, congratulations on the great campaign. Look forward to seeing you next year. And his coach, she said that he still thinks he doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we had a great conversation around that, and comes back to the same thing. And like I told him the same thing. Like I said, look, we all feel that. But the thing is that you just rub shoulders with some of the greatest in the sport at the moment. It's going to elevate your game. You may not feel it right now, but your expectation, your standards will rise. And it's what you do then, knowing what you have to do to get back up here is on you. And that was the same with me. It's like I had the ability to rub shoulders with like Ben Bergeron and some of the leading coaches in the game at the time. And it's watching their professionalism and knowing the expectation they set for their athletes was contagious. It made me elevate my game, and knowing that they want their athletes to do well, and I wanted my athletes to do better. I had to then form a system or a plan to make my athletes better, and it just sort of pushed me in the off season to make sure that, you know, we're on that path.
Yeah. No, it must be like, I think that's, like you say, it's a common thing. People I've spoken to who've been at the games more than once, it's always the second time is when they're like, all right, okay, like, you know, like say Haley Adams this year, I think one of the lines that Chase Ingram threw out at the weekend was like, she turned up last year and she grew up this year, like that she, you know, like she showed that she belongs to be where she is. And I think it's anyone that I've spoken to that's been at the games the first time, it's like they're almost happy that they just made it, and it's like, oh, I'm here and I get to participate. And they've kind of got that wide-eyed like, whoa, look at this thing, and you know, like it's everything's so bright and exciting. And then afterwards there's like a lull of like, fuck, like I didn't really give my best performance there because I was just kind of happy to belong or whatever. So I think your sentiments are echoed there, and Jeff's current insecurities, I'm sure in a couple of years, looking at the way he did hold himself, I'm sure in a couple of years he'll look back and think, geez, remember when I thought I didn't belong here, like when he's you know, maybe standing on a podium himself. We all watched the heartache of, when Tia missed out, and I think especially the documentary where, I mean, it kind of made it to me anyway, it made her more special. Like more, it was like there was more of a sense of belonging to the journey when you got to see, like, I suppose, that self-conscious and lacking in confidence, and the, you know, like, and there's one specific scene where a guy asked her for a picture or an autograph or something, and she kind of takes it or does the the opportunity anyway, and then afterwards says like, oh, he's going to delete that, or she says it to him, I think, you're going to want to delete that in a couple of minutes. But like, to go from there to like totally dominant in the sport, like, you know, were you did you feel like you had to be directly involved there in trying to mold, I suppose, uh, Tia then into someone who like knew that, like Jeff, like knew that she belonged and knew that she deserved to be there? Like, was that a difficult process to go through? Because I know even like I sometimes train with my wife, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, is there a bit of tone in that? You know, like if she's doing a clean or something, and I'll say, oh, you shortened your pull there, like, you know, you need to be more patient. She'd be like, what do you mean? You're like, oh, nothing, it doesn't matter, because it's like it's going to turn into an argument. I'm not going to get involved in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like, there must have been difficult conversations through, say, those 2-3 years there.
yeah. Look, what I will say firstly is that you need to be confident in order to be at the CrossFit game to some degree. Like, you see Haley may not verbally say how confident she is, but you put her on a line, you give her a workout, she knows her capacity, she knows her capabilities. That's the same with Jeff. Jeff's a phenomenal athlete. He drew blood on Matt and the total, you know. So what I'm saying is, like, these guys have a lot of confidence just to get here. You need to back your belief. There's many stages to get to be a CrossFit Games athlete. But you're right. There was a lot of learnings with Tia and that, and I'm sure you're more familiar with Australian sort of larrikin sort of demeanor, or the way we conduct and talk is more of a downplay of everything. You know, the what I mean, not taking the
I
piss,
think, well,
but
I think all Australian, well, the majority of Australians that I've spoken to, or that I know, if you give them a compliment on anything, they could have just like jumped and touched the fucking moon. And if you say it to
yeah,
them, they'd be like, oh, well, like it's immediately downplayed
to
as soon
play
as
it
anything
down.
happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So a little bit of that was caught off guard by the videographers, but don't get me wrong, Tia took a lot of those criticisms on board, and she molded and shaped herself, and that, I felt that there was some form of obligation on myself as well. I changed a lot of things as well for at the end of 2016 season. I changed the tone, the language that I used, the words, the way I critiqued or criticized, exactly like you said, shorten your pull, I would change it and then focus on something great. And so the extension on your
Yeah.
legs were fantastic. You know, you had strong leg drive. And then she'd wait for the butt. And then I'd say no butt. And I'll just leave it there. Then the next day, if I saw the same short pull, I would then say, I'm still loving that leg drive. Just keep giving me that good extension in those arms, and then
Hang
it's
on,
going to
wait.
look amazing.
Let me get a pen.
Yeah. and then I just stand back behind the wall so she doesn't throw anything at me. No, but it's I learned a lot as well, and I'm not, and I think I'm partly to blame as well. Like I feel like I set her up. I didn't guide her well enough, and that's what I was saying about, you know, like, I'm learning just as much as she is, and I'm just grateful that I get to do it with my wife, and she trusts me is a massive thing as well.
Yeah. I think, like you mentioned earlier on about being in the trenches for a couple of weeks, maybe if there's something coming
Yes.
up, or like, again, like there's, I suppose, a comfortableness that you get with your spouse when you're married, where you might say something to them that you might not say to someone else. Like, I know I've done open workouts in the past, and there was one like a few years ago, I think it was like 2 years ago, and there's burpees over bar. It might have been like 10 rounds or something. And I remember my wife had just finished it and I started, and there was another guy judging me, and he was, every so often he's like, come on, keep going, and I'd be like, yeah, keep going, man, like, you know, just do what he
Yeah.
says, like, he knows what he's talking about. And then my wife came over and was like, come on, you're doing great, keep going. I was like, yeah, shut the fuck up, like, I don't need to.
Yeah.
You know, and then like, it's, you know, she was like, come on, keep moving, and
Yeah.
I'm like, stop telling me to move,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yes.
Like, is that when you're coaching her, it like, is it a case of when you, like, say, walk out of the house and walk into the gym, that the dynamic changes? Is there a shift
Yeah.
in dynamic, or is it like, you know, once it's 3 2 1 go, there's a shift in dynamic, and then there's, I suppose, maybe, as you say, you have to choose your words carefully, like just as a coach anyway, never mind as a husband, where you
Yeah.
need to kind of be more positive, or whatever. But is there a moment where the dynamic shifts, or do you think it's kind of constantly morphing and evolving, as you say?
Yeah, I 100%. I feel like if the roles are reversed, this would never work. I would not be on this podcast today. I'd still be in the mines working, I'll tell you that. But no, I must credit Tia. Tia is phenomenal with criticism, constructive criticism. Sorry, she has this ability to separate emotions with constructive criticism.
Mm.
Um, better than obviously I could handle. If I give her
Doesn't have that
constructive,
defensiveness kind of.
she doesn't, and sometimes I remind her it does. It's not easy. Like it's never easy to hear someone trying to get perfection out of them, or to try to get them to be the best version of themselves, and it
Yeah.
has to be their spouse or husband. It's never easy. It's like, for me, like, I feel sick sometimes when I have to tell her. Like, I just feel bad. Like, that's the husband, like, trying to come out going, oh man, I don't want to say this.
Just tell her she's great.
Exactly. Yeah, you're doing really good.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, it's tough. Like, cause you're right. Like, she just has the ability to separate it from that, and we've learned this, and I think we've been doing this more. This coach husband, I mean, sorry, this coach relationship sort of dynamic longer than we've been boyfriend and girlfriend, or husband and wife. So
Yeah.
so it feels somewhat natural, but it's honestly, it's a lot of credit goes to her. She knows what she wants, and she can separate those emotions when I'm trying to do it. I will say, when we are in the trenches, I will tap her on the shoulder and go, look, these next 2 weeks are critical. Everything I say is because I want you to be the best version of yourself when you compete. So please don't throw anything at me. Don't kick me. Don't break up with me. We're going to get through this. But yeah, she's phenomenal at it.
Yeah. I heard on the Noble More Than Influencers campaign, there's a video,
Yeah.
and you were asked about, like, what credit do you take, and you said, like, oh, none. Like,
Mm.
surely you deserve, or you've earned, like, a smidge. Like, surely this is just the Australian downplaying the role they've had.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I see there's some form of compliment there. I appreciate that. But honestly, like,
Because even, like, I'm noticing now, even when I'm talking to you, like, I'm asking you questions about, like, how you handle those coachable moments or those learning moments or whatever, and invariably you're turning it around to, like, well, it's credit to Tia because this or
yeah,
because that. I mean, like, there's, like, I feel like if you weren't as open to educating yourself or bettering yourself, you wouldn't have gotten to where you are. If you weren't as open to, admitting your vulnerabilities, or, like, seeing your shortcomings and then improving on them, you wouldn't be where you are. So, like, I'm sure if Tia was sat beside you and I said, do you owe Shane anything for your success, I can't imagine her going, no.
yeah. No, you're true. I believe that too. Like, she would certainly say some nice things. Well, I hope so. But look, I think that I'm not caught up on what I'm doing. Like,
Mm,
I feel I'm caught up in what they're doing. I feel like as a coach, you, and as a husband, like, you want your spouse, you want your athlete, or you want them to be the best version of themselves. And I think I'm more focused on that than I'm focused on what am I doing presently. Like, obviously there's some elements that I have to do to make myself better in order for her to be better. But
mm,
I'm more focused or more concerned about what I can do rather than what I've done to
mm,
myself. And I'm sure it's elevated me to be a better person because I'm surrounded with great people that want the best for themselves, and they project that around themselves. It's contagious, and it's.
yeah.
But I know what you're saying, and I'm trying to deflect the question as well. So I appreciate it.
You did it really well, in fairness. What's it like then as a coach, like, say, at the games normally, or any competition, like, when it's obviously incredibly stressful anyway. Like, we watch Sammy every year, like, and Keith every year, like, on the verge of breakdowns from just emotional exhaustion. Like, is it difficult to separate yourself from that side of things in the heat of the moment? Because I know, say, one of the things that the commentators were talking about over the weekend was, especially on Atalanta workout, they were saying, like, this is where the coach needs to step in and say, start doing sets of 4, or this is where the coach needs to step in and say, you're catching up, start doing sets of 5 or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
is it difficult sometimes not to just get so impassioned by what's going on that you kind of forget, you're like, oh shit, I was supposed to tell her such and such a thing? Or do you think that the way that you coach or the way that she participates, that work is almost like done before it's 3, 2, 1 go?
Yeah, I think these are great questions, and you didn't even have much time to prep for this. Is fantastic. So there's many layers to that. Like, depends on the scenario and the circumstances is when I inject myself in what I suggest. Like, we will have scenarios played out in the warm up. We have when we have an opportunity to talk about, the event, we structure it. We talk about the capabilities of each, like Tia and Matt, and see what they can do. Let's look at it. Let's look at the final event at Atlanta. I'm sorry, that's probably a bad one because the approach to that was a bit different to other ones. We can talk about that later. But let's look at like the sled sprint workout. You know, the sprint, sled push, sprint back. We talked about that, and we talked about, like I said, and this is what I said. Look, we want a solid, hard 100% effort for 50 to 55 meters of that track. Then I want you to decelerate to 95%. I want you to then push that sled max effort. That's the workout. I want you to hammer that home, finish it strong. And then when you get past that line, I want you to then force perfect positions in running. And I want to see acceleration phase. I want to see those fast arms, and then just hold on, pin the ears back and go. So they were kind of the talk I was trying to express to them. And I didn't want to break it down. So I left it into their abilities to go, okay, I know what 95% is. You know, I didn't say, look, I want you to hit 20 kilometers an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be too precise that I then created confusion for them, just in the case that things go south. Like, the sled just buries or digs in and they're like, oh, crap, I haven't got the right strategy now. What do? I need Shane to tell me. So it depends on the workout. So the snatch, not the snatch work, the total love those ones because it's like a chess game. It's like weightlifting days when we did that. It's like you just feel the crowd, you feel the athletes, you know their limitations, and then you play with those strengths. And that's what Tia did, just played those numbers, knew where competitors were, just did a couple pounds here to make sure she won the event and just sealed it up. So there's different strategies. I will say though, the masks this year were actually great for that. Because you could talk to your athlete without the cameras lip reading what you're saying. You know, like, I want you to beat her. You know, like they don't see that. They just think, oh, he's just telling her to do this. You know.
When you found out that the games was going ahead, that it was going ahead online, and then it was going to the aromas. I mean, I guess the online aspect just fit, like there's a sense of serendipity about that where it just fit perfectly to what you had been doing up until that point of like, oh, it's Matt and Tia training on their own in the garage. Yeah, perfect. That suits us absolutely fine. We've nailed that for the last like 9 months or whatever. And then when you get to the aromas then and you hear, like you mentioned the mask there, and it's kind of funny. That's one thing that struck me when the last workout was announced. My wife was like, why is nobody reacting? And I was like, because we're wearing masks, so it just hides it perfectly. Because like all you could see was their eyes just like staring deadpan. It's like they could be mouthing like, fuck you, Dave, underneath, like, you know. But when you discover, like, say, a workout, so say we'll ignore the fact that it's 5 people instead of whatever 30 or 100 and whatever it was last year, but they release some of the workouts, like say early last week or the weekend before, and then they kind of drip feed a few workouts. Like, at what point do you start strategizing, or at what point do you start like looking and thinking about, like, God, have we done a workout similar to that? And what, because obviously it's too late to suddenly be like, fuck, we haven't done like sprinting and sled sprints, let's just pack in a load of those this week because that's what we need to do. Like, where do you draw the line between getting prepared and strategizing for stuff, and then maybe like diluting the water too much and like confusing things?
Yeah, again, great question. Over years, you start developing like a process or a plan on how you want to do a lot of testing phase so that you can have a lot of carryover. So we like to, man, this is why I do podcasts. I share too much, I feel. We do a lot of lot of testing, and then using that data to carry over in other events. So, for instance, like when we're leading into the stage one, the front squat wasn't announced, but prior to that, we did a back squat like 1 RM, 3 RM. So with that data, we can guesstimate within 10 to 15 pounds either way of our limitations for a front squat, just using some simple formula and working out what that estimated total would be. So then we use that data, then, okay, look, let's aim to be around there. Or obviously they would know what their 1 RM front squat is, but because we got fresh data on their 3 RM back squat, we could then compare that and see if they're within that realm. So using that to our advantage and doing a lot of testing before an event, just so we can do that carryover. And that's, I won't say the magic in CrossFit or the excitement. I guess it is the adrenaline for me, is that portion of making sure that we've ticked every box. Like, you never know, and that uncertainty does drive concerns from time to time when you question, am I on the right path? You know, like, am I doing the right things? Are these guys doing enough reps on GHDs, total bar? Are they doing enough handstand push-ups or whatever? So you are in a spiral of questioning what you're doing, but that questioning also allows you to think more into, it allows me to think deeper into, okay, like, we need to start formulating a plan of, okay, when we're 2-3 weeks out, let's start doing more obscure testing of things, just so that they have some form of carryover for the strength portions. And let's also do some longer modality, like single modality training, to have some form of carryover as well, like, you know, your 5K run and 10K run. And so we know the pacings and efforts need to be applied there. But you're right, like, I don't think I've nailed it yet. Like, I've never in training smack bang picked a workout and it's showing up at the game. So again, I don't have the right answer for that, but I also believe that as long as the goal is to find the fittest on earth, we are striving and training every day to be that version, to be the best and fittest on earth. So as long as that goal is there, we're going to be training towards that. But as soon as it starts turning out to be more of a publicity stunt, or they start going a different route, I'm not saying they will, but, you know, then maybe our goals will shift. You know, like, maybe our training model will change. But
yeah, but I think, like, if anything, it's shown, like, with all the changes over the last 2 years, if anything, it's shown that no matter what the test is that they're deeming to find the fittest on earth, they're finding the same two people, like, every time. So it can't be a coincidence. Like, speaking of, you get, like, I suppose, full circle yesterday where Matt and Tia crossed the line holding hands at the end. Like, how did they kind of just happen to gravitate towards each other? Like, were they kind of both standing on top of the podium one year, just nodded at each other, and that was it? They just decided to start training together, or, like, was there conversations had, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so that came about organically. Matt lived in Cookville prior to us moving there. So when we moved there, we knew he lived there for part of the year, because he lived in Vermont, where he actually grew up. And then the summer, half the year he'd spend in Cookville, half the year he'd spend in Vermont. And then the period we were moving into Cookville, he was still in Vermont at the time. And then he randomly just called Tia up and said, hey, I hear you moving in the area. When I move back there, do you want to just train? And then Tia gets off the phone. Matt Fraser called me and wants to train. And I said, what now? With us? And then we're like, oh, damn, this is going to be a pretty intense off season. And then anyway, Matt's phenomenal. Matt's a professional in every aspect. So when he came down, we were like just talking about, like, obviously goals and how we structure our programming and how we train. And then he goes, great. Look, I'm not here to compete. I'm just here to train. I just want to have someone keep me accountable, vice versa. And I just want to, dominate in his terms. And so great. They line up with our values. We like to dominate as well. Let's rock and roll. Anyway, it organically evolved where he did some of his training and then jump in one or two pieces. And as the weeks went on, he started jumping in more of our pieces. And then leading into Dubai 2 years ago, whenever he went to Dubai, it was maybe the month before that, he was just doing completely our training and just following our structure. So T and Matt, in a percentage, would probably train 85, 90% of the time together. The other 10% would be like when they're doing monostructural rowing intervals at home in his garage, and we're just doing it at our place. More than likely in the afternoon, we would meet up and just train together as well. So that's, yeah, Matt's fantastic. Obviously, his accolades speak, and that speak for himself. But what you don't see on the camera is his aggression, purpose, and drive is way more intense or powerful than I imagined. Yeah. So it's crazy to see it. And that's, again, elevated my game as a coach to make sure that, like, crap, if he's bringing that intensity and he's bringing that drive to the group, I need to help, or I need to match or help him elevate in some form or some way.
Yeah. Like, are you his coach then? Would you, if someone asked, would you be like, oh, I coach him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is like when he starts, then say prior to Dubai, when he says like, oh, I'm gonna just start just fully going with you guys now. Is there a moment there where like that vulnerability that you had in the early days raised its head, where you're like, oh fuck, like okay, yeah, that's fine. Like,
yeah. Well, when he lost points on that sandbag event at the CrossFit Games last year, I was like, shit, Matt was dominating. Now he's finding himself second on the leaderboard. I have done that to him. Like,
yeah.
I felt like this guy has worked so hard, and then a sandbag fell out of his bag. Now he's sitting second or third in the leader. This is not Matt Fraser. I've done something. And I was like, right, we've got to reel it back in. And again, coming back to that, as long as they're trying to find the fittest on earth, that was the reassurance. It's like, as long as they're finding the fittest on earth, you're going to be right where you need to be on Sunday. And I was like, this is it. Just let the game play out. You just keep doing you on every event. Boom. Sure enough.
Yeah, I'd say you let out a serious fucking sigh of relief when he did put on the leader t-shirt.
Oh man, just gives me chills thinking about it. Yeah, I know how much he wanted that, and I know he would have killed himself if he had to. He would have ripped his arms off on the stand on that last workout if it meant winning.
Yeah.
What was your favorite event for the stage 2? I'm going to put one on you.
For the just gone. Oh,
yeah.
I loved the swim, was really, really intense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I liked the trail run. I think the reason I liked the trail run so much, like, I spoke to Justin before on the show, and I was genuinely like speechless with his attitude. I just thought he was just so humble, but so like, yeah, no, I just really want to win. Like, he's just like, it was really jarring, the two sides of his personality. Like, and then I thought, like, when Dave said to turn around, and he literally just was like, okay, and just went, I was just like, man, I fucking love that guy. And then I think there was just so many funny moments as well, like, as a fan, when you're watching, like, you know, especially with the commentators, you know, like, Samuel turned at one point, and you could hear Dave saying to him, have you figured it out yet? And Sam's just like, yeah, and he just kept going. You know, like, moments like that are so cool. But I think the whole weekend was really good. I think for, like, it must be so difficult to program something for 5 people, and for it to be like accessible for the fans to be able to, I suppose, do some form of it at home, or, you know, like, feel some sort of involvement, for it to be exciting, exhilarating. And then I suppose he probably knew he was going to have the issue of, well, Matt and Tia, there is still going to be a gap. No matter what the test is, there's still going to be a gap. So we still need to make it somehow interesting for everyone watching, who's like, if the winners are almost a given, you still need to have it interesting. And I think, especially on the men's side, I think I saw Brian Friend put up a stat that none of the other 4 men were in the same position at the end of any of the days. So, like, they all filled place 2,
Yeah.
place 3, place 4, place 5. So that shows like that the
Yeah.
tests were just like, I just thought it was really good. I think as well, just to be able to watch the fucking sport and see it and be like, when you have that nostalgia factor as well of all the old crew are back, all the old media team are back, like you get that sense of like, you know, that kind of buzz of, I don't know, just
Yeah.
excitement for it, like, and like hopefulness of like, oh, maybe there might actually be some fucking competitions next year that we can go to and see.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
gives hope. Yeah. I think the response has been fantastic as well. We're speaking to Eric Rosa, the new CEO of CrossFit last night, and they're thrilled with the impact or the views watched so far.
Yeah.
It was televised on CBS on Saturday with the lunch workout, the snatch ladder. Apparently that was crazy reviews as well. So I think, honestly, I think CrossFit 2021 is going to be a fantastic season. I'm thrilled to see the evolution of the sport and the programming, I guess.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic as well, so it's cool.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Well, listen, I won't keep you much longer. I'll finish with a quick fire. So they're all
Okay.
either or. So ski or row?
Wait, is this for me or for Tia?
You.
Oh,
Tia can answer this when she comes on.
okay. I'm gonna go row.
Okay.
And I already regret that decision. So this is already pressure. Damn it.
This is why I don't do podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Snatch or clean?
Clean.
Coach or train? So like train yourself or coach someone else?
It's a good question. You want firing? Train.
Squat or bench?
Squat.
Flat white or a long black?
Long black. I like lattes when I like milk. I mean, milk in the coffee is like, ooh, like a treat sometimes, but long black. And I haven't heard long black in a while. It's Americano. I'm like, oh, long black. What is that again? Yeah.
I was about to say, like, there was a big pause before you answered that question. I was going to say it's a quick fire, and then you answered you said the words long black incredibly slow as well. I was like, is there something wrong with Zoom?
Yeah, it was glitching. Yeah.
Sprint or chipper?
Sprint.
And
I regret that. Okay, right, keep going.
Oz or Cookville?
Oz.
Okay, cool.
Home.
Well, listen, thanks so much again for doing this. It's a privilege to chat to you. I really enjoyed it. Enjoy what I assume is going to be an incredibly relaxed couple of weeks of off season, and then the build for next year. I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do in February and beyond. So best of luck, and hopefully talk to you again someday.
I appreciate it. And also I want to thank you as well for giving me your time as well. And I think you guys are doing great with sharing the content out. I think it's great to see positive and great education coming out from your end as well. And you're helping the sports grow as well. So I appreciate what you're doing as well. Thank you for your time.
I think you must think you're on a different podcast. There's been some mix up here.
This is TED Talks, right? No, thank you for your time. I appreciate it as well.
Cheers, Shane. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye now.